Welcome to episode number 18 of the Heeb Goy
Welcome
Show.
back. 18.
18.
18
That's
Heeb
right.
Goy show. Got to apologize about my voice right off the bat. I was outside at the soccer game last night yelling and screaming. So that's why I'm a little hoarse.
Yeah, it's the Fakakta soccer game.
Dan thinks it's fakakta activity, but
Yeah,
that's okay.
everything about it. Just anyway.
Yeah, Dan, a lot
Um,
of things are fakakta to Dan though, so let's be fair.
yeah, I'm not the best barometer. I hate everything.
Yeah,
So
he's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So we have a jam-packed show this
I
week.
know. I think we have a jam-packed show because Dan and I were texting each other before, and we've got lots of stuff that we need to like complain about and talk about. So it might, it's probably going to go well over an hour, but that's okay. You never know
Yeah,
what you're going to get on the Heeb and
it's
Goy show.
jam-packed. So like we have equal amounts of stuff. So
Mm-hmm.
do you want to flip a coin and who goes first? I got a coin
No,
right
let's
here. Want me to
back,
flip
but
it?
like we each got like three things, so let's go back and forth. Yeah. If you
Yeah, I
got
think
three
that
things to,
works.
right? If you got three
That
things to talk
works.
about, I got three
I
things to
have
talk
I
about.
have two things, but yeah. But yeah, I mean let's start strong. I love the pictures you sent me.
Oh
Um,
no. We're gonna
so
start with this? Oh my god.
yeah, it's so good. So I have never seen these before, and this was Bruce in the '90s when
Okay, this is
when
going to
he
be a
was.
new, yeah, this is going to be a new segment of the show called Bruce's Tour Stories because um Goy, it should, if it says Goy Stories, it should be
Goy. It's like Toy Story, but Goy Story. It's
oh,
Goy
I see.
Stories.
I
It's
thought
Goy
it was like, I
Stories.
thought it was Bruce, like I wanted to get a better title like Rock and Roll Stories or Stories from the Road, or it's basically stories that like when I was in a band in my
Yeah.
20s. I was in my 20s, I was living in San Francisco and I was a drummer in a band, okay? And I've always been a drummer in a band. And Dan, why do you think that a young man would want to even be a drummer in a band? What's the main motivation for being a musician in a band?
Duh, getting chicks, of course.
Getting chicks. Correct. So I'm just realizing the other day I've got a bunch of stories about encounters and quite frankly hookups that I've had that are it's by the way, it's not in a tone of a flex about look how great it was. It's like it's pretty disparaging. There's some pretty awful stories that I have that I'm willing to talk about. And you know, so these are pictures of me from the 90s when I was in a band called Grotus. You can see that I'm about 110 pounds soaking wet. I don't look anything the way I look now. I'm like thin as a fucking rail. And oh, that's nice. Thanks for doing that. That's really nice. Thanks, Dan, for
I
putting
look. I
lots of
didn't want anyone.
disparaging.
I didn't want anyone to doubt,
Right.
the veracity of the pictures. If you compare the
Yeah.
two, you can
25. Yeah.
tell.
It's actually,
You
you know
can
what? It's fucking 30 years later at this point because that picture is
98.
from,
It says 98 on
oh,
the
that was in
picture.
98. Okay.
It's 98. So it's
So,
26 years actually.
look.
But yeah. So I did this. I did this not to make fun of you, although also to make fun of you,
Yeah, definitely to
but
make fun of me.
because you look, we want to be up. We want to be transparent. That's the same person. You can tell. You can basically tell it's the same person.
It's hard to tell, but it is the same
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
It is the same person.
All right, all right. So
But
back we go.
thanks for that. But so anyway, like 25, 30 years ago, I was in a band in San Francisco and stuff. And you're in the band because you want to hook up with chicks, let's be honest. And so I started thinking about all the many, I'll be honest, I've had a lot of hookups during that time, but a lot of them were not my best performances. A lot of them were just really just like awful. And so I want to tell one story about a very, this was kind of gross. It was just kind of like, it's from the middle picture. You see that middle picture there?
Yes.
So there is,
You mean
I'm at,
you're referring to this picture right here?
no.
Yeah,
The
the one on the
middle
left.
picture,
The one on the left, right there.
yeah. But you tiled out the girl. I
I did.
found this picture. And the picture is like, oh, that's the girl that I hooked up with, right? Like that's the girl in the picture that I'm going to talk
I
about.
removed. We
Right.
don't.
So I didn't want to talk about some poor woman who had the unfortunate experience of sleeping with me back in the day and having to, drag that. So I'm like, okay, we tiled out her face, whatever. But anyway, the year's 1998. Here's the story. The year's 1998. And by the way, I'm a mess. You could tell I'm a mess. All I do is smoke cigarettes, drink beer, and smoke weed round the clock, right?
Mhm.
120 pounds soaking wet. There I am in all my glory. So we play like a warehouse, and it wasn't from a tour actually. I think it was maybe the beginning of a tour, but it's in San Francisco in like a warehouse kind of a deal, right? And of course, I'm like fucking so hammered. I play these shows hammered. I got at least about 8 to 12 beers in me, and about a pack worth of cigarettes, whatever. I'm a mess. And but like, and so after you play the show, you're like, oh, now it's time to hook up with chicks. This is the whole reason I'm doing this, right? So there is a couple, and I'm always really bad at gauging whether the girl is interested in me. Like I'm good at talking a game, I'm good with the rap, but I'm bad with that initial opening of the case. Like, hey, this girl's interested in you. I'm really bad with that. The girl has to make it real fucking obvious. So this girl here in the yellow jacket walks over and she's like, hey, she's batting her eyes at me in the uncensored picture that I sent to Dan. You could tell, right? And like she's like looking at me like, oh my God, like I'm gonna get lucky. So, but I'm so drunk here, I'm barely aware what's going on. So, long story short, she takes me back to her place right after the concert. She takes me, and that's always the funny
so wait a
part.
minute, back up. So
Go ahead.
she lives in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And she's like, I want you to come back to my apartment.
Correct.
Okay.
So the show is in San Francisco, and it's in the Mission District, I remember. And this, like in 1998, San Francisco is a different town than it is now, right? But where a bunch of poor kids could live there. And so now, she's like, I'm going to take this guy home, and she brings me home, and I have to tell all these stories with the preface that my memory is so fucking bad over the years of smoking too much weed. But it's funny the way that memory works, because there are little nuggets of very clear visual things that happen like it happened yesterday. But there are big parts of the memory that are just gone, like important parts of the memory. That's why I thought about this, because it popped back in my head. And she brings me back to her place. Sorry. And I remember it being a typical messy San Francisco type of apartment where she's got roommates, and we go to her room, whatever. And I remember we walk into her room, and it's like one of these things where she's got the mattress like on the floor, and there's lots of dirty laundry around everywhere. And this chick was very much like a female version of Bruce, right? She's like a total slob. She smokes and drinks a lot too, right? And she dressed like a bum, just like I dress like a bum.
No, this is the 90s. Everybody dressed like a bum.
We all dress like a bum, right? But like I was like, okay. And so of course I don't remember the actual sex or anything like that. I just remember hooked up, and it was probably, by the way, with all these women, they get a horrible performance out of me. Just horrible. Like, I just think about what it must be like for them. And it's got to be a nightmare. You know what I mean? This fucking drunken, smelly, fucking greasy, who performs poorly, right? Really poor. I'm sure they get zero pleasure out of the deal.
Of course.
And of course, right, Dan? I mean, like, the part of the story is like, I wake up. Another thing these stories all have. So you're horrified about walking into the room. That's one thing I always remember is the room. I always remember about all these women is the room. Like, you walk in, right? Of course, I don't remember the sex. I remember the room. You walk in, it's like, oh my God, this is, whatever. And one thing that I've always been true with me is, like, no matter how drunk I get, no matter how late at night we go in to do this, that dude right there that you're looking at wakes up every morning at 6 a.m, ready to go. Hungover, but needing breakfast and coffee, like wake up at the crack of dawn, no matter how late. It's just always been true about me. So of course, the next day I wake up at the crack of dawn, and there's that moment of horror where you sort of, like look around, you're like, oh my God, where am I? What did I do last night? Who is this? So absolutely, you look to the left, and there's this woman that oh, I guess I slept with this woman last night. And, or, whatever. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, oh, not my best work. You know what I mean? But then again, like, neither am I. I mean, look at me. I'm gross. But then I realize, like, what's this all over the floor? And I realized that I'm on a mattress that is on the floor. And on the floor is a bunch of newspapers. The whole floor of the room is covered with newspapers. And then I see something skittishing, like moving around in the corner. I'm like, what is that? And then through my foggy brain, I realized that's a fucking guinea pig, like a just random loose guinea pig that's walking around on the newspaper, probably shitting on the floor. Right? And so then I realized I see another one over there. And then I see a third one. He's like actually on the mattress. And there's a moment of horror because, like, look, guinea pigs are great, I get, but they're kind of like ratish. They look like rats to me, like, I don't know, furry, cute rats or whatever. And then I realize I'm basically on the floor with a bunch of fucking, what are they? Are they?
Rodents.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right.
I realize I'm on the floor with a bunch of newspaper and a bunch of rodents and this woman. And like it's a moment of horror that I'll never forget. Like it's like whatever. But I'm sure that I don't want to be disparaging. I mean, we all live a certain way, whatever. But it was just funny that I remember like that image just popped up into my brain. And of course, it's like, how do I get out of here? And I just wake up, and she slept right through it. Of course, I sneak out like a thief in the night when I do to all these situations. After
Do you remember her name?
Not at all.
Okay.
Not in the least.
Not even a first name.
No, absolutely not.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely not. I mean, look, I got to apologize. This is horrible for me to be telling these stories. I'm glad I tiled out her face. You know what I mean? But because I'm sure, like, imagine if we got her on the podcast to tell her side of the story. What a gold mine that would be, right? Like, oh my God, this guy.
Well, she's the one with guinea pigs that are just running free. So, like,
yeah, no, but do we live any different? Like, I mean, I thought that was a little odd, but I mean, I guess people can live their life the way they want. But I just remember waking up on a mattress on the floor with guinea pigs, like on the floor, on the fucking, like the whole floor was filled with newspapers, and I realized, oh, I'm in a guinea pig cage, like. I'm sleeping in the guinea pig cage. Like the guinea pigs are not kept in a separate little cage.
No, you're in it.
The room is the cage.
The room is it. Yeah.
The room is the cage.
Right.
And you can imagine what the roommates think of, like, oh, she lives in there, and like what goes on with that, whatever. So I woke up just thinking that's not my best work or whatever. And the funny thing about this is that she was like a female version of me. So she was actually kind of cool, and she smoked a lot of weed. I went back there a couple times, Dan.
Oh.
I went back there a couple times,
Went back to the well.
I went back and she would like smoke weed with me and stuff like this. And it was all fine and dandy and stuff. But I just keep thinking about, like, now that I'm adult, I think about like this poor girl, like, Jesus Christ, like, what did she get out of this? Like, what kind of horrible performance did I give? Like, I know I'm not the best, so I'm like,
and meanwhile, this illustrates why you and I are such an interesting duo. I have never in my life, not one time, had a random hookup like that. Never.
Are you kidding?
Never.
Because that's why I wanted to tell this story, because in my time in the band,
well, yeah,
there's probably a little bit north of 100 of these, and it's again,
right.
I'm not gloating, because every one of them was more horrible than the next for the woman, right?
Yeah, no, I get. No one, we know you're not bragging. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying. Then you got your partner here, your sidekick, the Heeb, who had no social skills, and we did the opposite of you. Went to college and grad school, and I had a girlfriend for a while in college. That doesn't count as a random hookup. And then and never happened to me. Never.
I mean, and it's interesting because I think about it. We both know, we're pretty honest about our situations now. Like, there's not too much action going on. And
that's what's funny is that we ended up in the same place, basically.
Yeah. Like we're both like in our 50s now. We're in good committed relationships, and there's really not too much action happening.
Yeah, and we really want, right? Both of us, what we really, really want is a good sandwich and a good shit. That's what makes us happy.
I'm telling you that, like that is where it's at. And so I don't even really care when people are like, oh, is it, it's you don't really live the same way, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to. Like, your priorities are different. I have someone that I love and stuff like that. So, but I do have this past that I sometimes think about, and I just like, again, the memories just pop in like in and out, and the guinea pig floor thing. By the way, I'd completely forgotten about this until like semi recently. I just, for some whatever reason, I remember being, that's the guinea pig floor, and I'm like, dude, oh my God. And by the way, there's a ton of stories. So that's why it's going to be a weekly story.
Goy stories. Yeah.
Goy stories. I'll come up with a better. I don't like Goy stories too much.
It's funny. It sounds like Toy Story.
Nobody understands the reference.
All right.
Well, we'll come up with some, but anyway, so these pictures here, you're looking at 3 pictures. One of them, I got the long hair and I'm wearing a t-shirt that says I love crack, which is funny. Right. Yeah. I never smoked crack, but it was a funny shirt to wear in San Francisco at the time. I'd walk around and literally dudes on the street would give me a thumbs up when they saw me wearing that shirt, which was great.
And then you have the middle one where you look like effeminate, kind of.
You think I look effeminate? Then I'm just posing.
A little effeminate.
You can see I'm smoke.
You're voguing. You're kind of voguing a little bit.
Oh, I'm hamming it up for the cameras. I'm drunk and full of confidence. And the one on the right,
you're hitting that hi-hat. You got the snare.
Yeah, but look at how fucking look at
skinny.
how fucking like it's ridiculous. Like, and so, and I'm not that guy because why don't you put up the disparaging picture one more time? Let's all have a laugh at that because we're showing how the body changes and stuff.
This is how the body changes, ladies and gentlemen. And 25 years ago, we had a gaunt, effeminate man,
right?
Striking
strong jawline, right? Cheekbones, the whole thing. And now I look like the guy from The Sopranos, right?
Like, like the retarded soprano cousin. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's one of the thanks for that. That's and I got a ton of these stories, and I've got some really humdingers. Like that story was just like, I've got some really ones where it's just so like I'm the worst. Like I am just, we
are the opposite. I have nothing, absolutely nothing like that in my entire life. Nothing.
Not even from college, Dan?
Nothing. No, it's my biggest regret. Like in college, man, I was such a late bloomer socially. I was such a
but doesn't Dan went to Dartmouth, doesn't Dartmouth have like frats and sororities?
I was in a frat. Yeah.
If you were in a frat, you have no fucking excuse.
I have no excuse. I'm not making excuses. I was a mess. I had no social skills. Everything was a struggle for me. I didn't have a girlfriend in my life until I was a senior in college. And then I had a girlfriend for like six months.
So let me ask you an embarrassing question. When did you lose your virginity?
Are
you comfortable with answering that? I don't want to ask.
I am. I'm trying to think what counts though. Like, you know what I mean?
What counts? Sticking the dick in a vagina.
Okay, so then it would be 23.
Oh wow, that's late.
Now the story is good. It was very late. But the manner.
I want to hear. You want to hear that? Do we want to do it now? I got to hear the Dan. Are we going to do this? The Dan losing his virginity story? That's a big get, bro. Are we going to do this?
So
you feel comfortable? You don't have to do it. If you don't feel comfortable about it.
No, I'm not. No, nothing. I don't want to get embarrassed by anything. I just don't want to. Anyway, so
Dan and I are at the point right now with this podcast that we are going to share that, and then we talked about this. The most disparaging stories about ourselves. We don't even care if it's good for the podcast and entertainment where it's going to happen.
The only reason I'm hesitant is not because of me, it's because of the person.
Yeah, then don't do it.
It involves, I'll tell you off air, it involves a venue and a thing where it might be a little embarrassing for that person. And
don't do
other
it.
than the fact it should be embarrassing for her. It should be embarrassing for her because it was me. So that's the first thing that's embarrassing.
Of course, and that's the same with every single of the women that I've been with. It's got to be a horrible story. Like, and it would be amazing to get one of them on the podcast and just say from their perspective, like how badly I performed or how horrible I was, and just like,
oh God.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm self-aware to know that there was probably out of all of them, there's a couple times where I know I performed well and things were good, but it's easily 5%. If or less. The overwhelming majority is me just fucking and just out.
The biggest tragedy in my life is that it wasn't until I was probably in my 40s, maybe mid 30s, that if I weren't married, that I think I could maybe score some chicks, just because by that point I had my shit together. I was decent socially.
Right.
I don't want to. It's not a lifestyle that appeals to me because for me, I have a superpower, and I'm not like most guys in this way. I see the day after the day after. You know what I mean? Where you're like, oh,
you see the circumstances and the ramifications.
Where in the end, even if you're single, in the end, chances are the person is a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah.
Or psychotic, or mean, or just for whatever reason, you end up regretting it for one reason or another. And I know, and that's most of the time, probably. Right.
Yeah. So you see the future before it happens, and you're like, "Wow, that would be great," but then this is going to happen. And
I don't want that. I don't want that. It's not worth it. It's not worth it to me. It's not.
No, I hear you.
I don't. As much as like it sounds good in some ways, like for like maybe a weekend, but like in the end, it's not a lifestyle I would want. Like, plus, I just don't like people. I mean, I'm straight and everything, but I mean, I don't like people in general. Like, I just want to be left alone.
Wow, Dan. Yeah. So so that was the Goy story. What is the next? And now we're going to go to one of your things. Dan has some.
I put together a video based on what's happened. So let me give you a primer. I'm currently contracting, as you know. I quit the job, but I have a month left. I'm contracting for a very large company.
Mm-hmm.
I have not worked with or for a huge company since the 90s. It's been a long time.
Okay.
I avoided that shit. And then I got back in a couple of years ago thinking, who cares? Right?
Yeah.
Well, I was driven out by this thing, and I want to show you the video. I want to get your take. It's just a 2-minute video.
Dan froze up.
No, that's your connection.
Wow, this is the internet connection usually breaks down on my end, not on Dan's end.
This is on your end.
No, it's not. I got a strong signal.
No, I think your inbound, me coming out, meaning it was fine for me.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We gotta get your significant other to bump up. We'll get to CenturyLink in a few, but so I want to get your take on this. I made this 2-minute video summarizing what drove me away, what made me quit, and I
have not seen this video. Dan put a video together. I have not seen it.
It's a little bit inside baseball about the IT business, but it's a short video. I want your take.
I'll move it along.
I'm very curious about your take. So you ready?
Okay.
Here we
go.
Ready.
I've been in the
Dan's getting ready. He's queuing up this video.
90s, and every so often a trend pops up that is
turn
so
the audio up.
numbingly stupid that it feels like some sort of practical joke. Enter Agile. I've been lucky. Somehow I made it all the way to 2024.
Can you turn the volume up a little?
Having this utter nonsense
I'm going to pause
forced on me.
Hold on. I can't turn the volume up. It's at max. You got to turn it up on your end. Go to your microphone.
But can the people listening hear it?
Yes, they can hear it.
All right, that's fine. I'm sorry for interrupting. I'll continue.
Okay. I'm going to start over just to be safe.
I've been in the IT business since the 90s, and every so often a trend pops up that is so mind-numbingly stupid that it feels like some sort of practical joke. Enter Agile. I've been lucky. Somehow I made it all the way to 2024 before having this utter nonsense forced on me. It turns out it became popular way back in 2001 in Manifesto for Agile Software Development. That's right, Manifesto. I think their heart was in the right place. They were just documenting processes that they believed would increase efficiency. It led to the creation of the Agile Alliance, which is nowhere near as fun as it sounds. So let's see. We've got increased efficiency and an official organization that can fundraise and have get-togethers. And wait, did you say increased efficiency? You see, with Agile, you work in sprints because we'd better haul ass for the corporate overlords. But hey guys, while you're sprinting, let's have a meeting every single day to review what you did today.
Did you bullshit last week? No. Did you try to bullshit last week? Yes.
The way it works is a Scrum Master, yes, that's a real title, defines what tasks will be in the sprint. Let's say while you're working on a task, something unexpected comes up and you want to take a look at it. Nope. That's not for this sprint, you see. That goes into the backlog because you can't possibly multitask or think for yourself. Ultimately, this methodology is Simon Says without the nuance. It's a bunch of middle managers treating you like a fourth grader because you are definitely not capable of working on a project without a polo-wearing cult leader shooing you along. How did anything ever get done before Agile?
That America's leading industry is still the manufacture, distribution, packaging, and marketing of bullshit.
For me personally, if I see anything Agile or Scrum in a job posting, best be sure I'm running the other way. I'm all stocked up on bullshit as it is and definitely don't need more of it.
So I got to admit, right in the beginning, whenever I see like the graphic of some sort of business type thing, I glaze over. Like immediately, I just sort of like.
Yeah.
But you did keep it. So is Agile the name of a program that let me guess, some guy made it up and he walks around, I'm the creator of Agile, which is this new way of doing things and blah, blah, blah. And the office is going to now implement the Agile system. And we're going to have the guy that created the Agile system come in and talk to you guys about how it works. And he gives talks and right? Like it's a whole thing.
It's what I would refer to as the flavor of the week. Now, Agile's been around, it turns out, since 2001. I didn't know that. But I've been in the business a long time. I've heard of it. It's become ubiquitous. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And it boils down to what you always say, which is what they want to do is extract as much from you as possible while giving you as little as possible.
Basic tenets of capitalism. Yep.
If you read through like how it works, it's like we work in sprints, right?
Yeah, that was interesting.
We're sprinting. It's a sprint, right? And no, there's no common sense at all. Something comes up, you want to look at it. No, don't do that. You can't do that.
Barrel through it because they want to keep. And that part I understood. Yeah.
You have some person, and it's their job to basically brag at the end of the 2-week sprint that they did so much. Here's what we got done. Look at all we got done. Look at all these things. We got all these things done. And it's just stupid. And it's like, well, somehow we got a lot of shit done before this was invented. And the thing is, they have like conferences. It's basically a cult, in my opinion. And
there's a lot of things in business like this that are little systems and like, I remember when I was working, they would always, it wasn't Agile, but they'd come up, a new way of doing things and streamlining. And it's always done in the sake of like some manager sits in an office somewhere, has an idea to make production better, to just constantly squeeze more out of you. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why they like it so much.
It doesn't make sense though.
It was invented by software people, right? So the general idea behind it isn't so terrible. It's you're breaking a big thing into multiple components.
Right.
Well, I'm going to do this big thing, but it's big. So we're going to break it up into this and then this and this and this. And that part's fine. That part makes sense. But it's just become this thing where it's what I like to say, structure for the sake of structure. Right.
Yeah. And it's doing things for the sake of doing things. And it's giving managers something to do to really, I mean, honestly, you don't need too many managers. That's what we're finding out in 2024. And that's what you're finding out at the work from home thing.
I wish we were finding that out. In what I did, what I'm still doing, I quit the job, but I have another month. What I did, which was a pretty big chunk of what they have to do, of this one thing we do. I'm the only guy who does it. I'm the only coder in the whole company. It's a $1 zillion company. But they have 27 fucking managers come in and swooping in and talking to me all the time, who don't do any work. They don't code anything. It's just all bullshit.
So they're still doing it.
They are still doing it. And I think a lot of it is, I honestly believe what they really want. They want labor overseas where they can pay $5 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They'll begrudgingly hire some of it here if it's more senior and if it's a situation where you've been around and you have business experience. But generally speaking, you hear about this great job market. I'm telling you right now, it's fucking not. And
no, it's terrible.
And basically,
because Dan is out there,
I'm done. Yeah, I have made the decision that whatever I do,
bravo. I mean, fuck it.
Whatever I do for the rest of my life, Bruce, is going to be I'm going to be self-employed.
Good. I bet you feel good about that decision when you put
your
head down at night.
I would rather succeed or fail based on myself than be some shit slurping fucking guy in a suit who draws a paycheck every 2 weeks and fucking pats himself on the back like he's some like successful master of industry, when the reality is he's just a fucking sucker. All
right. Yeah. But there's lots of people and friends and listeners who have to work in those jobs, and we shouldn't be disparaging against them.
No, I don't mean that. I'm referring to people who really believe that, because I deal with this all the time, who people think because if you're self-employed, something's wrong with you. That like, well, what's wrong with you? That's weird.
There is true. There is that sort of stigma that if you're self-employed, like, are you not a team player, or that you must be some kind of a loser? But I think there's a new.
It's the other way. It's the opposite.
It is. It's a flex. If you're self-employed,
it's way harder to be self-employed. Way harder.
It's a flex that if you're self-employed, and it's like, well, yeah, maybe sure you're not making the kind of money or whatever, but it's like, yeah, but I'm fucking self-employed. Like that's the win. That's the end game. I'm self-employed, So no, that's interesting. I didn't see that video before. I didn't know what that system was. It was a little bit inside baseball. But did you make that video just for like your own sake?
No, I'm putting it on the channel. I'm putting it on Heeb Goy channel.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And so like,
and then you can maybe like put it out on Twitter or some shit. Like
hopefully
maybe
someone will search and find out my opinions on it. And I'll share it with my current coworkers once I'm out.
Yeah, put it out there.
I'm going to, because the whole thing's ridiculous. And like, I've just decided I made the decision this weekend. I am DONE, done, cooked, never again.
With the corporate America.
Look, I'll do freelance work for corporations like I've been doing, but I had toyed with the idea of trying to get like a regular job because I'm getting older. I'm like, fuck it. But it's not worth it. It's not
worth it now because they've sort of like tightened the screws and they keep on tightening. It's a good analogy where they keep on tightening the screws to get more out of the worker and pay them. That's the whole basis of capitalism. Let's give them the least amount and extract the most amount so that we make the most amount. That's basically how it works, right? We give the worker X amount of dollars, but we want this from them. Give them as least as possible. Let's take as much from them. That keeps our profits going up. It's the whole reason we're doing this. And it's like, it's gross and you can feel it. And they're tightening the screws so much. The screws are now so tight from that picture that you sent of that job description the other day. It's like, people are like, why? I don't want to work. I don't want to do this because they're just expecting too much. Like on a more basic level, like back in the day, you could be a dishwasher and then you'd go in and you'd wash dishes and that was your job. But now, now you're
a team member.
Now you're a team member,
We're a team,
and you have goals. And you have goals, and they'll make systems, right? Yeah. And they'll make tiers of systems and little rewards and penalties and goals that you have to hit every day. And then, by the way, you got to do this, and you got to do this, and you got to do this. And long gone are the days of a nice job where you would just go in and be like, "Hey, man, I'm an IT guy. I'd go in and do my IT job and come home, and that's it." Now there's all this other bullshit you got to navigate, and it's like it's become to the point where it's just not fucking worth it. And the younger generation, God bless them, is like finally rebelling against it. Like, you know what? I'm not interested. I'm going to make a YouTube channel and have subscribers, and fuck you. And that's when the whole narrative of these businesses, nobody wants to work. Nobody wants to work. No, there's people out there that want to work. They just don't want to work for you for fucking cookies. They don't. It's not worth it.
I'm done.
Good for you,
whatever I do from here on out will be my own thing. I'll be
Dan, congratulations to you, and fuck the agile system or whatever the fuck, and good for you.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, I'll move to my next thing because you've just mentioned it. There's the job description.
Okay, so Dan sends me a screenshot of a now hiring sign. That's it. Is this in the cafe that you go to?
This is a bagel place. I have another story.
Oh my God! So this is great. So by the way, before you get into this. This is all, I don't know if you see it or not. This is all over fucking the internet are people clowning these now hiring signs and people that are clowning places that are trying to hire people because of how, like, just the sign alone and the job advertisement, help wanted ad is just toxic right off the bat, filled with red flags.
Must be happy, punctual, and willing.
Dan, read the sign. Dan, read the sign to the people.
Now hiring customer service team members. You know what that means? Bagel makers, bagel slingers.
Bagel person that has to serve people. Yeah.
Sling the bagels. Must be happy. Already, I'm out. Right. Already,
I'm out. I'm not
punctual. I can deal with. Mm-hmm. Willing to learn. Okay. In a fast-paced environment.
Red flag.
Take a look at the shop now and see how it goes. We need weekday shifts, especially Monday through Wednesday. And it's like, it's just say we need someone to make fucking bagel sandwiches. You're gonna work from noon to 3. Yeah. We're gonna pay you this. That's it. That's all I need to know. I don't.
So this sign isn't even as bad as some of the signs. This sign, there are certain terms that are such red flags. One of them is like a family. If you see like a family in the thing, then fucking run. But one of the common red flags that you see here on this particular advertisement is fast-paced environment. That's a code word. You see fast-paced environment. That means they're going to give you too many tasks to do for what they pay you. And the other one is,
and you know what the scary part is, Bruce, is this is just a mom and pop operation. So this is nothing compared to what most shit is out there.
I mean, yeah, you work at Starbucks. That's a fast-paced environment. Like Starbucks got to be one of the hardest jobs. I see people that work at Starbucks, although I haven't been in there in a long time. That is like a nightmare, boy. They turn the screws. But this is what I want to say about this one. Must be happy, punctual, and look, happy must be happy.
No, sorry.
Bitch, you don't pay me enough to be happy. By the way, all jobs are acting jobs, right? All jobs are acting jobs. Whether you're in a business, whatever, you're acting. You're acting like a manager who gives a shit. You're acting like someone who likes people. You're acting like someone who likes serving people. Nobody does. Nobody does ever. So if it says must be happy, okay, how much are you going to pay me? Like, you can pay me to make bagels. How much extra are you going to pay me to be happy? There should be a tiered system, right?
There's not a number.
If they have a tiered system for how, like, the goals that we meet as employees, the employees are now pushing back and being like, okay, you pay me $20 an hour to make bagels. You want happiness as part of my package? That's another $5 an hour.
Oh,
for another $5 an hour, I will pretend to be happy all day long.
It's gotta be more than that.
Right? But other than that, and by the way, as customers, I don't need a person to be happy. Quite frankly, it's super. That's in the India story that I'm going to tell next.
I don't want them happy. I'd rather them. Right.
I know, but when I go into a restaurant and there's clearly someone working at a bagel place or someone that's acting happy because you know that they have to act happy.
I hate it.
It is so fucking off-putting. It drives me nuts, and I can't think of anything else. And I almost want to look at the person dead in the eyes and be like, are you okay? Like, blink twice. Like, I know you're not happy in here. You don't have to act around me. The manager's not looking. Can you please be real? I know you're miserable. You're working in a restaurant. Everyone that works in a restaurant is miserable. You know?
Yeah, so I wanted to just real quick on this subject.
I'm sorry for taking over.
No. I took a picture of the sign, but the reason I brought this up is I was at this place today, and there was a gaggle. There was like 7 of them.
Hold on. Are we segment? This is the bagel store you always go to?
It's a quickie. Yeah, it's a quick story.
All right. I love Dan's bagel stories because Dan does this every day. He goes into bagel, and
not every day. I don't go every day, but yeah,
but it's one of the few times that you have to go out there and interact with people, and something always goes wrong.
So we're in line, and there's a gaggle, and by a gaggle I mean 6 or 7 college chicks wearing pajamas and Crocs, and
it's Sunday morning.
I got a quick picture of them. They were so fucking annoying. They kept hugging each other. I wanted to punch them in the face. They kept hugging each other.
Do an impression of some of the talk that you overheard of hi, oh hi. Is that what it was with the hugging?
Oh, that's Shane. Is Shane coming? Is he here? Oh my god! It's so
cool. The vocal fry, and then the uptick in the talk.
The whole thing.
Oh, that's super annoying.
They were just, and the thing is, the pajamas. They wear pajamas now, bros. Pajamas.
You just wear pajamas
and Crocs, and it's like okay.
They just rolled out of bed.
Look, you're in line at a bagel. You're in line at a sandwich place. You have a civic duty to fucking stand there like a regular human being, place your order, and move the fuck on. Right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's a civic duty. It's a civic duty. And
we should
these broads. These fucking broads, and you know me, I try to hands off the college broads. I give them a break. They were annoying though. They kept hugging, hug,
huggy,
and
huggy, hug.
They're hugging. It's like go hug somewhere else, sweetie. Like, you're in a fucking. Oh my god! It was.
You know, I'm with you because when I'm in line for food, I think there should be a certain decorum for anyone that's in line. Like, now is not the time for doing anything social. If you're in line, it's time to keep it quiet, stay in soup mode, which is a Seinfeld reference, and just move forward. Now is not the time.
You can chat with the person you're in line with. I got no problem with that. What I have a problem with is a gaggle. Almost in a circle formation, jumping up and down and hugging each other.
Oh, they were jumping up and down? That would have annoyed me.
I don't like adults who act like children. And granted, these are college kids, and you could say they're not adults. They're adults. Okay.
Yeah. Are
you over 20? 19, 20? You're an adult. You're an adult. Like,
I'm with you on that. Like, I don't like adults that act like children, like in public, but I'm starting to get more of a break, and I'm starting to understand adults that have interests that might have deemed childlike. Like, I get if a guy's into if there's a grown guy who likes Lego, and that's something that we might have made fun of. But you know what?
This isn't the break because we're in a restaurant. We're in a fucking. I don't care what they like. I just want them to act like adults.
Just behave like an adult.
You can have a conversation.
Don't jump around and scream and huggy hug.
Talk about how much you love the latest whatever fucking movie, whatever. Do all that. This huggy shit and just overly happy.
Dan doesn't like huggy hug, overly happy, performative happiness, like in the line, you know. No, I'm with you. And I could picture you being super annoyed at that.
I was extremely annoyed. And I really want to transition though to I really want to get to this because I've been dying to
Oh my God. This is a good story. You're gonna like this. So so I'm home. I'm housebound. I touched on this on a little bit last week. I'm just gonna talk about it again. But like, so the internet went down in CenturyLink. It's horrible. And I've got like this folder that says CenturyLink, and every time the internet goes down, probably about once every 4 months out here, like every single time. And when it happens, it's the same thing. It always has to do with some sort of wiring that going on in the back alley. There's like what they call a tower, which is that box. It's got the wires in it. Out here in Arizona, the sun just cooks on it all day long. And I've seen them when they take off the tower. It's like a bird's nest in there of wires, and it's fucked up. But getting a hold of CenturyLink, it's like what you had to talk about earlier with business. It's like, do you know what a phone tree is? You work in business. Do you know what a phone tree is?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay, so like a phone tree to people don't know is when you call, they like press 2 for customer service. But it's like super. There's a lot of different.
They want to avoid having to have a human talk to you.
Now I know this, but because that's general. Like it costs the company too much money, and it slows down the gears to actually have someone to talk. And that's one of the big things that most boomers had. There's no one to talk to on the phone. It's like, okay, I get it. But they make it maddening on purpose. And they make a phone tree like a maze that has dead ends. And it's funny because the phone tree to CenturyLink is set up to where there is no option to talk to a person. It doesn't exist. It's like customer service, and it just goes all over. And then it just dead ends. And it's like make an option, never. So it's one of those things where you got to go talk to a person. And it's because me and you know that if you yell like operator or talk to a person, that the software in the phone recognizes that, and then and only then it says, okay. So you know, so like when it's Ro see me do it, so like Ro will be like in the living room, and she just hears me go, you know, it's quiet, but you just hear talk to a person, and then a little while. Talk to a person, like it just gets louder. Operator, talk to a person. So this goes on.
Yeah, but then be careful what you wish for, right?
Right, because then
hello.
Look, I like this is please know that this is not anything disparaging against our Indian brothers and sisters, people living in different countries. You know, it's not like that. And I feel bad for like, so of course it goes to like
hello.
Dan.
Hello.
Dan, be careful with the accents, Dan.
Could I please have the last 9 letters of your social security number, please? Hello, my name is Nick.
So Dan, okay, so and so
we're not shitting on Indian people. We're shitting on corporate greed.
Right. Your vocals, your mic just went real low. I think you over.
No. We're shitting on corporate greed. That's
so this is what it is, because I know they pay people in India, and the Philippines is another place where they go to. It's literally a couple bucks a day to do this. So I get this guy on the phone, right? I finally get a person, and all I need to do is we got to go through this. I do this every couple months. I know the drill. I got to talk to this guy. He's got to go through this list. I can see it in my head. He's probably got a list of things he's got to ask me.
They got it right.
Until he gets a guy. All I want to do is get a guy out here. But they don't want to do that. That cost them so much money. No. That cost them so much money. So they got a way of like checking the lines.
They want to make it's called. You know what they call it in the business first? They call that triage.
Oh yeah, it's triage.
They're triaging.
So I know the drill, you know. So they're like, okay, they don't want to. They don't have an option. Just get a guy out here. You got to go through the song and dance. It's like ridiculous.
Hello.
So I get a guy on the phone, and he's like, hello. I do the Indian accent really bad.
And
right?
Let's role play. Okay, I'll do it.
Are you going to be the Indian guy?
Hello, my name is Nick. Hello.
Dan, when you do it, don't put your head down there. It looks weird and it sounds weird. Okay, there you go.
That's what makes it funny. Hold on.
No. Don't get too close. Okay.
Hello, my name is Nick. Could I please? How may I provide you?
Hi, Nick. Nick, how you doing today?
Hi, very good. Thank you very much. How may I provide the excellent service today?
Okay. Well, my internet's not good.
I must first please confirm your Bruce Boyd.
Yes.
Could you please confirm the last 9 letters?
Okay, I can't do this, Dan. This is maddening. I can't do this.
what they
Let
do.
me no. Let me just tell you what happened.
Okay.
Okay, it's maddening. Let me just tell you what happened, because it has to do with that sign that you just put up where it says "Be happy," right?
Right.
So I know that these guys that are working over in India probably have an American overlord that walks around the phone room, listening over their shoulders and telling them what to do. It's a parent, right? So this guy, I'm talking to this guy Nick, right? And he's like, "Hello, my name is Nick," and I don't even say how it's going in India. I don't need to do that. I don't need to torture the guy.
No.
I know that he thinks that he's fooling me, that he's like in Iowa somewhere,
Yes,
but that's fine. I'll let him,
well,
whatever.
right.
I just want to get a guy out here. I don't need to torture this poor guy.
Okay, so tell me what hoops you had to jump through to get it, to make the point that the issue is local, it's on site.
It's at least a 25-minute phone conversation, but one of the funniest things that happened in this phone conversation was, you say, "Hey, my name is Bruce. What's your last name?" "Boyd." "Bruce Boyd? Bruce Boyd?" "Yeah." And he's typing it away. And while he's typing it away and pulling up my information, they're trained to talk to you. They're trained to give you small talk to put you in a good mood while they're waiting for the information to pull
Meanwhile,
up.
that has the opposite effect on me.
Opposite effect. I'm mad. I'm like, please be quiet.
Yeah.
And again, it goes back to the customer service things. Like, I know they're being fake. I know but this guy was so brainwashed, right?
How about them Yankees today?
I swear to God. So you know what he said? This is true. He goes, "What's your name?" "Bruce Boyd." He goes, "Oh, do you like Lord of the Rings?"
What?
"Excuse me?" Like that actor Billy Boyd from Lord of the Rings, right? And I don't know what the reference is. I don't even care. I just know that he's trying to. I know that there must have been a meeting at some point where his boss told him, take the name and take a cultural reference and talk to him about his name. That puts him at ease.
Do you think they have AI that tells them that?
They might have a screen that pops up. Me and you work in business. They might have a screen that pops up when they type in the word Boyd.
Like, oh,
that pops up and gives them something to talk about. I swear to God.
Okay.
That's how maddening this is.
Yeah.
"Oh, Billy Boyd." And this is honest to God truth. This is what he says. "Billy Boyd, Lord of the Rings." And I'm a little annoyed at this point, and I'm trying not to show it. I'm like, "Yeah, Billy Boyd, Lord of the Rings. That's nice." He goes, "He is very handsome, and you must be very handsome as well, Mr. Boyd." He says that verbatim, right? And he says, "Billy Boyd is very handsome, and you must be handsome as well." And Dan, at this point, I'm like, okay, that's a little.
My blood pressure at this point would be 350.
Yeah, it's a little too much. And I said something. I remember saying, "All right, Nick, that's nice. Can we, And I was just like trying not to be so. But Nick kept on talking about it's like, oh, and so then I started to call him on his shit. I tried to say, then it gets me annoyed. I'm like, there's a human being buried underneath all this cult-like following. I want to see if I can get to the human being, right? So we're trying to get the guy out there, and he starts talking to himself. I'm like, there's that lag where he types up information, and he's like, oh, they're doing the thing of like, let me check your lines remotely. So they do that thing where they can see what strength of the internet is, whatever, and that takes a couple minutes. He's like, "Thank you for your patience, Mr. Boyd, because now we're going to check the lines." I'm like, okay. And then during all this, he's just kind of like going with the, he talks about the weather and stuff like this, and like, it's a very nice weather I see you're having out there in Mesa. You mean Mesa? Yeah. Right. So I know he's just very good or whatever.
I have very close by in Phoenix.
Yeah, no, you don't live close by. And meanwhile, you can hear the whole phone room in the background, the pecking away. It's like, it's like, I feel so bad for this guy.
No,
I feel so bad for calling him,
I'm going to make fun of them because that's the only thing I can do. But ultimately, this is a large multi-million dollar corporation who fucking hates its client, its customers.
They hate us. They don't. So anyway, as it gets to this point, he's like, "Yeah, we're going to send the guy out there." And I go, "Hey, Nick, you don't have to tell me that I'm handsome." I got real. I'm like, "Hey, Nick, you don't have to tell me that I'm handsome, And he got quiet. And I pictured, did I just get Nick in trouble? Like, I don't want to get Nick in trouble, because then he gets a stab. And I'm like, that's fine. And then it's kind of like, "Are you okay, Nick?" And he goes, like a robot. I swear to God, he says, I am doing very well, and it pleases me so much to serve my customers. When I make my customer happy, that means I am happy. And I was like, whoa. I mean, it was like Jim Jones shit, bro. And I was like, I got such a you know what? I go home to my family and I know that I did a good job for Mr. Boyd. And that means that I did a good job today. If Mr. Boyd is taken care of, then I can go home and see my family and I love them. And I'm like, what the fuck? This is so fucked up that CenturyLink is making them say that. It makes me hate CenturyLink even more. It's having the opposite effect that the CenturyLink overlords are telling these guys. They think that like, oh, we're going to end the phone call and Mr. Boyd's going to be like, that was a nice interaction with Nick. I love Nick. I love CenturyLink. Opposite fucking reaction. I'm like, I can't believe CenturyLink is making these guys do this. They're paying them $1 a day to fucking be beholden to me and to like act in this way, you know. So it just, and there are some other things, but I forgot. I mean, it's just this Nick. And at the end of the day, all right, Mr. Boyd, and he's got to go over this list, you know. I can tell him, let's review the phone call. I'm like, okay.
No.
Did I
provided you excellent service today?
Yeah, did I provide you excellent service today? And I know the drill because I used to work in the industry. I'm like, Nick, 5 stars from me. Great job, 5 stars from me. I got no problem.
I would have hung up by then. I would have hung up.
Oh my God, I feel so bad. Hey, if you would like to take a 5-minute survey, and like Nick, no.
You noticed there's a new trend in that business too, is they repeat back your problem to you and they're like,
I know why they do that though, because I was in the business. That's because they're covering their ass. These places, we did it in the garage door service. Because they record every single phone call, because
I know that, but I'll say, hey, I got an outage. You know, having an outage can be very, very frustrating.
Yeah, they want to make sure that, Dan, they're still covering your ass, because if you call up and say, I told him I had an outage, and he never heard that I had an outage. Now they can play that recording back to you and say, Mr. Richmond, he said outage back to you to confirm that that's in fact. They're covering their ass big time, because they're counting on me to call back up and complain about Nick with some sort of a problem, and Nick has got his bases covered, everything along the way. So, and Nick did a great job, but I just feel so bad that he was so unable to be real with me, and it was just, I would have really loved to talk. Dan, if I got a chance to talk to the real Nick and be like, hey Nick, how's it going? Not so great. It sucks over here. Oh yeah?
I make $3 an hour.
I mean, if he says like, yeah, you Americans are paying me $2 a day to talk to fucks like you, I would be like, oh yes.
Yeah.
Dude, I'd get a stiffy if he talks to me like that.
You know what's funny, Bruce, is you know how I have, when on the subject of internet service, you know how I avoid this?
How?
I have one method to avoid this that I've discovered.
You have people.
No, I have business service. I pay extra. I'm in a house, but I pay extra for business service. So with business service, you only get Nick if it's like way after hours, like 1 a.m. or something.
Who do you normally get?
You get a person in the United States. You get a guy. You get a guy, like a local guy.
Yeah,
and you can say, here's what's going on. Like, okay, let me take a look. Oh yeah, we got to know.
Look, I don't want to be disparaging against India guys, but let me ask you this: Does the local guy ever get real to you, or is he the same sort of? Is the local guy still as brainwashed as Nick?
No, that's my point. Is that not only are they local, which helps a lot, but there's way less bullshit because it's business service. So they look, first of all, they're like, they do all that shit. They're like, let me take a look and see if there's a local outage. Let me see if there's a node out. Oh yeah, it looks like we have an issue. We have some guys out there. I mean, it's way different.
But he's talking to you more like a human being and can pick up he can pick up the nuances. Like, this guy's a little annoyed. Maybe I don't want to tell him he's handsome.
I don't want to shit on Indian people per se. What I'm angry at is the corporate greed. I'm angry at the fact that I'm in the United States and you are telling me, fuck you, customer. I'm going to make you talk to someone on the other side of the world. A lot of the times you have trouble understanding them. Sometimes they're good. Other times they're not.
Yeah.
And we don't want to pay. We think so little of you that we don't want to pay someone to help you in the United States, where we might have to pay $15 an hour.
Yeah, and it's so funny. You're right. It's corporate.
That's what angers me. It's not. The accent and my name is Nick is just that's a side effect.
See, I would honestly, I would love to talk to Nick, because Nick was good and he did help my problem and stuff. He got a guy out there, whatever. But I would love it so much if it's like, hey, Nick, by the way, that's not your name. What's your real name? Adele. Spell it for me. Because when people tell me their name, I like to get it right. Honestly, if you got a weird name, tell it to me. I want to get it right. You don't need to call me Nick. What's your name? Adele? Oh, hey, Adele. And I learn a new way to spell a name. And then it's like, hey, so where are you? Oh, I'm outside of New Delhi. It's very hot. There's mosquitoes. I'll be like, oh, it's dry here. I would love an interaction like that with someone on the other end of the world to tell me, like, I would love that.
There's very little on the planet that annoys me more than overseas client customer service.
That's why you wanted to. Yeah, that's why you got excited. Dan got excited when I sent him this picture, and I'm like, dude,
I actually, you know, when this all started, this kind of became a thing around like early 2000s.
Yeah,
and I just remember being shocked that these corporations were so willing to just say fuck off to their clients, to their customers. And because here's the thing, Bruce, why am I on the phone with someone 3,000, 4,000 miles away rather than somebody 100 miles away who's probably more familiar with my
because
situation?
the company saves about $7.
They don't want to pay anybody.
Yeah,
and
the thing is, it's not even a lot. It's like,
it's not a lot. It's a drop in the bucket. It's
a drop in the bucket for them, but this is what I used to argue with my company about. It's like, do you realize? I mean, you're saving X amount of dollars, which puts you up this high, but here's how pissed off we are dealing with it. It's way up here. Yeah, so like,
if it's cable internet, they know you can't do anything. Like
that's another thing about this neighborhood that I'm in. It's either CenturyLink or Cox. You get two chances. You get that. If you want internet, and by the way, I'm on like these like message boards and stuff, and like Cox is just as bad, if not worse. So they're both bad.
Cox is what I have, but business.
Yeah, but out here, it's just bad no matter what. I want to hear the other.
It's all bad, but again, it's just if they were so worried about saving money, right? You can have a call center in Arkansas or in West Virginia or in Mississippi or in Vermont, rural Vermont, where you're paying more than India, but you're not paying that much. And bro, it's a drop in the bucket. It's a drop in the bucket.
So listen to this. Yeah. When my car, the transmission fucked up and I had to do my due diligence and call Hyundai corporate to find out whether it might be under warranty, right? And I was so scared of making this phone call because it was right after I talked to Nick. I'm like, oh, I got to call Hyundai, you know. I got this wonderful old black lady that lives in Arkansas, and she was so great. She talked to me like a human being, and I had the best interaction with her, and she really helped me. And she's like, I'm going to see if I can take care. I don't want to do the black accent and get in trouble, but she was kind of like, I'm going to see if I can take care of you and get you a free transmission. And we were talking about the weather, and we were talking about this and that and saving money and stuff. And it was like this great. And then since I know the business, I said, look, I've been talking to you on the phone for a while. I'm sure that you've got specs that you got to keep these phone calls short. And she was real with me, dude. That's what I'm saying. She's like, yeah, I know that I don't want to do the accent. She goes, I know that they time these calls and they like to keep these calls short, but I've been working for them for a long time. And they know that my customer service rating is so high that I can spend 40 minutes on the phone with you. And they know I've got 5 stars. And I'm like, well, you get fucking 6 out of me, honey.
Before we move further, I want you to guess. This figure's from 2020. I want you to guess how much CenturyLink paid its CEO. He's one guy in 2020.
Okay. In 2020?
Total compensation.
His year, what he made in 1 year.
1 year.
All right. I'm going to guess CenturyLink. 50 million.
35.6 million.
Yeah. See, that's an obscene amount of wealth. Obscene.
There's a company, or there's a website that basically calculated who the most overpaid CEOs are based on how much the workers make and all that.
Yeah.
CenturyLink was number 5.
Dude.
So like Disney number 3, CenturyLink 5, PayPal number 6. Some of these are just, and their median worker pay at CenturyLink is $68,000. That's a ratio.
It's not
a ratio of 527 to 1.
Can you imagine? Just give the workers a little more shekels.
And that, if he made, instead of 35 million, if he made 25 million, that would give them enough money to hire the lady you talked to in Arkansas,
right,
to do the job instead of
think about it. But the thing is, yeah, they don't realize that, like, I'm not the only one that walks around saying CenturyLink sucks. Everyone I know walks around saying CenturyLink sucks. The only reason that we stay with them is because Cox sucks as well. And Cox is doing the same thing. I'm sure Cox is CEO.
No, they're all awful, man. They're all
Right.
awful.
So, but no one has a choice. It's not like you. That's why I sometimes think, like, what if there was, Dan, what do you think about this? What if a company just showed up? I don't care if any kind of company, internet company that makes cookies, any kind of company out there that decided in 2024 to create a company that takes a radically different business approach, where, yes, they were concerned about making a profit, but they were more concerned with just really making fans out of people. Because we were talking this about, like, I'm not a fan of any company anymore. I used to be a fan of Doritos, or like, every company sucks. Everything sucks. They're all doing the same thing. But what if a company went out there and made a product that was so good and had customer service that was so good? And yes, it cost a certain amount, but it was worth it. And people actually felt good about spending that money instead of feeling a sickening, like when I buy something at the grocery store, I feel sick because it's $8 and I know that that's too much, and I want to steal it.
There are a handful of companies. Look, I don't think there's such I don't think there's such a thing as a good public company. If it's a public company,
well, what is it? What is that bread company that people feel good about? The one that hires ex-cons? There's like a Dave, like Dave's bread company. There's a bread company out there that's small that like hires ex-cons and people feel good about it and the bread's really good. But the problem is, just like Ben and Jerry's, they'll be bought over by like, a huge corporation and the product will get more expensive and then the quality will go down. Just like everything sucks. Like every single company sucks. Every service sucks.
The only one I can think of where I have anything positive to say is Discover Card. They employ all American call centers.
Yeah, but like, what is the
Discover? And they actually tell you when you call in, they're like, "Hey, this is Fred in Utah." So, I mean, look, it's a small, stupid thing, but like for some reason, I like that.
But as consumers, it's so funny. They don't realize as consumers, they could give us crumbs and we'd be happy. They would give us the tiniest perk about being a fan of your company, and we're so used to being treated so bad that if a company gave us 20, like, think about this. What if you know what Enterman's Cakes is? We love Enterman's Cakes, right? That it's like a pastry company that we love. Do you know about Enterman's?
Yeah,
they make coffee. Yeah, they make coffee cake. Well, what if okay, so everything's expensive. What if Enterman's decided tomorrow to go on a campaign where they say, look, we know times are tough and groceries are expensive. So for the next 5 months, we're going to make all our pastries 50 cents less, right? And we know that our CEO is going to take less money and we're going to make the pastries 50 cents less. That's unheard of today. They would never do it. But imagine if they did. Imagine if they did and they went hard on a commercial like that. And they like heavy advertising, 50 cents less, And like people would lose their minds and buy these and people would just be like, it would go viral and people would love it. And I can't believe Enterman's doing that. I love Enterman's. They would build such a swelling of support knowing that they actually give a shit about people. But like
greed has become so extreme.
Oh, it's terrible.
And has just overtaken the world we live in.
Yeah. That's what I'm like, when we talk about capitalism and you're like, we've had capitalism since the 60s. I'm like, that's true. But the way that it's
capitalism a very long time, but
the way that it's more like, I'm talking about capitalism 2024 and
from the post-war period until I would say the 70s, 80s, you had a very different kind of system.
There were more checks and balances, And
then what happened was, there's a word for this. It's called the neoliberal order. And it's a political order that basically became popular and took over globally. It's not just here, it's everywhere in the 70s and 80s. And since then, it's the reason why pretty much no matter who you elect, right, things don't change that much, because the people who pay these people, the paymasters, the donors, the big pharma, and oil, and military industrial complex, and banks, that they fund everybody. They're all the same when it comes to most things. Not all things, but most things. And so what's happening, and you're seeing this globally, is you're seeing a populist uprising globally where people are like, enough is fucking enough already. We have too many poor people. We have too many homeless people, and the rich are getting richer and richer and richer. And that's what's going on. It's happening all over the world. And you're basically seeing the dam break a little bit. Argentina, the Netherlands.
Yeah, you're right. And I don't want to get into geopolitics too much, but in general, absolutely. You can tell that, people have had, like, we're reaching a limit. Like, if you're on social media, like I know you are, like I am, doesn't matter what platform, we are reaching a limit where people are like, I've kind of had enough. And there's finally pushback, like real pushback.
From 1978 to 2022, okay, and I told you around the 70s is when this all started, CEO compensation has shot up 1,200%.
Oh, yeah, I saw that chart.
Whereas I want you to guess, from 1978 to 2002, which is...
I know the chart you're talking about. It's like 8% or 17%.
15% for the average worker. Yeah. And
so like the line graph goes like this, and CEO suddenly is making an obscene way more than the production worth of the employees.
And it's because the corporate overlords, the people who really own this country, not the politicians,
the banks, people that own the banks,
the big companies, big pharma, big oil, military, industrial, the biggies that own the government, own our country. They get away with it because they're fucking brilliant. And what they do is they keep the working class fighting each other over bullshit. They keep the peasants at each other's throats over dumb shit that doesn't matter, while they laugh all the way to the bank. If you had,
I mean, I don't want to get into this with you too much, because I know we disagree on some of this stuff, we
don't disagree on this. We agree that.
But what I'm saying is, okay. So what I'm gonna say this. When you talk about this, and I agree with you on the most part, but when you say that those powers, and it's true, has us fighting about things that don't matter, I think these things do matter. I think there is. I think these things are.
Let me rephrase. I'm not saying, okay, some of those things do matter. I agree, but they don't matter in comparison to, in my opinion, all problems are downstream from the economic disparity and misery that we're suffering through right now in this country because of that.
I would 100% agree. I'll 100% agree with you on this. I use this statement a lot. Literally every single problem that we're having right now in all sectors all comes down to like greed and capitalism and just what you're talking about. Like this whole, and so we would absolutely agree on that. Like you could take any problem that doesn't even seem like it has anything to do with money or greed or capitalism. Eventually it does. That's where the base and the root of it is.
But here's my point. And this is my point though. Think about one thing. What percentage of the world's, or just take the United States, what percentage of the United States population truly benefits from the current system? What percentage would you say?
Well, they all talk about the 1%, right? Like,
it's more than one. I mean, the 1%, they definitely benefit, but like it's probably 5 to 10, maybe somewhere in there.
It's a small percentage of billionaires and millionaires and the well-to-do class.
I don't even mean them. I mean, they're obvious. They go without saying. I'm talking about the professional managerial class, the high dollar people. Your top 2 to 5%. Somewhere
like
in there,
upper management guys and companies, they like the way things are going right
now. The people who benefit from the status quo, from nothing changing ever. Right?
Sure.
Now think about, so let's say 5% for sake of argument. That's 5 out of 100. That's 5 out of 100. That means you have 95 other people out there. So think about this. If those 95 people, forget 95, if 60 out of the 95 decided we're fucking done with this shit, and they got together, regardless of their politics.
We would have the power to do stuff about it.
That is the bottom fucking line.
But here's what I always think about too, is like, that's true. And I always get excited, like, wow, we have the majority and these people are pissed and we would be able to do something about it. And you'll agree with me on this, I'm sure too, is like, the reason that we won't collectively do this is because we're like, yeah, but I'd like to go on a global strike, or I'd like to do this, and I'd like to picket that, but I need my money to pay my bills. I got to take care of my family. I got to go to work tomorrow.
Well, there's 100 reasons, right? That's one reason. Another reason is we have propaganda out there that just has us fighting each other and hating each other over dumb shit. And then like,
I don't think it's dumb shit we're hating each other over.
Some of it is dumb shit. I'm talking about like I can prove it to you. Like some of the things that became very common in the media, this has been studied like by academics, became big right around the time that you had the Tea Party. Remember the Tea Party?
I do remember the Tea Party.
Sorry, not Tea Party. Sorry. Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street. That's what I meant.
I remember
Occupy Wall Street.
It was probably like 2008, maybe
2011 in there somewhere.
I went to it. I went to it in Manhattan.
I will prove this to you. I'll send this to you offline. This has been studied. If you look at the media and you look at the topics that are mentioned in the media and the topics that are covered by the corporate media, starting around 2011, 2012, right around you had Occupy Wall Street on one side, Tea Party on the other, right? Now look, like or hate the Tea Party, they had some things in common with Occupy Wall Street. They were against corporate greed. They were against the bailout of the banks. So there was a few commonalities, right? The cosplay was stupid. All that was stupid, but there was a few things in common. So you had these two movements, and I think that scared the powers that be. And all of a sudden, you start seeing shit in the media about. I don't want to go into the details. I'll send you offline.
It's too much
certain topics that weren't a big deal before, that no one talked about, that no one cared about, suddenly get mentioned a lot. I'm talking about like 2012, and since then, that was the birth of what I refer to as the culture war. And the culture war, while some of the issues are important, I'm not saying they're not important, but I'm saying they're downstream of the real problems.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. That I mean, and after I say this, we'll move on to a different topic, but it's definitely like they are trying to just keep stuff to keep us fighting and stuff, because then it just keeps their money machine moving and stuff like that. So, I mean, I'll agree with you on that, and we'll leave it at that, because
all right, that's fine. You and I mostly agree. There's a few things.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it would be boring if we were the same two people.
No, but we're allies when it comes to labor, when it comes to the working class, when it comes
to I'm on Nick's side in India when it comes to that.
I would be on Nick. Like I like making fun of the voice, but I would be on his side too. Yes,
I'm on Nick's side as well.
So the other thing you sent me is I didn't get it. It was like some kind of postero.
I'll tell you the story.
Potrero.
Here's the story. I'm sure you heard it in the news that O.J. Simpson just died, right?
Yes, I know. Yes.
And me and Dan's friendship is based really on the Howard Stern show and the love of the Howard Stern show. And one of the big skits in the Howard Stern show was like so this is 1995. This is when the OJ trial is in a height. Like this whole OJ story was big in 95. Everybody remembers that, right? I mean, it was just dominant in the news. And they would make fun of OJ and use funny OJ for like, phony phone calls on Howard Stern. And it was just great source of material, right? But the actual story is pretty tragic because, Ron and Nicole got killed. And everybody knows about the OJ story. I don't need to go over it. But I was living in San Francisco at the time in 95. And it's that same guy that you showed a picture of before, skinny, sort of, Bruce, I was living in San Francisco, and this is a neighborhood called Potrero Hill. And so Dan's got a bunch of photos put up. And one is this like sort of mural from Potrero Hill that's right along the bus line. And it's a lovely little neighborhood. It's actual hill. You got great views up there, And you can see on that photo the bus line, the electric bus tracks that goes right past. There's a bus stop on the other side. Super high visibility, this mural right here. And now, little known fact, O.J. Simpson was born and raised in Potrero Hill.
I didn't know that.
So before in San Francisco, and one of the first teams he was on was the Niners, right? So number 32 in the San Francisco Niners, O.J. Simpson, Potrero Hill, very big culturally. And so when he was big back in the day, I mean, Potrero Hill they were proud of him, right? Like, oh my God, O.J. Simpson's from this area. He's a big star. He's on commercials. He's running through airports. Great. And so they made this mural before a long time ago. And it features all the great things about Potrero Hill. And it does feature a picture of O.J. Simpson standing there with his Niners outfit, like, it's part of Potrero Hill, right? And so I'm living in San Francisco at the time, and I live on the other side of Potrero Hill, and I got to ride my bike past this mural every single day. And also, I'm a graffiti artist at the time. I'm like a straight up vandal that always just had black spray paint with them and stickers and markers. And I was just fucking shit up in San Francisco at the time. And I was big in the movement. I'll say. I had a lot of graffiti writer friends and stuff, some of which became famous later on. And actually, myself, I enjoyed a certain amount of fame too. So it was big in San Francisco in the 90s. And so, but in that community, in the graffiti writer community, it's known. There are certain unwritten rules, Dan. One of them is never do any graffiti on a mural that's painted like this. Respect the mural. There's a bunch of rules in graffiti. That's one of them. It's the big ones. Don't ever write on a mural like this that somebody painted. Respect it. It's like, okay. Well, I decided to make an exception to that rule in 1995, one drunken night when I was riding my bike past this mural, because the O.J. Simpson was going on in the height of that, and there's a picture, and I would pass him every single day, and there's a picture of O.J. like with that smile on his face, pointing, and I'm like, this motherfucker murdered Ron and Nicole. I got to ride past him every day. Fuck that. And in my drunken stupor, I took out a can of spray paint and wrote the word guilty right next to O.J., right on the mural, right? So drunk. And I don't know if I'd make that decision if I wasn't super drunk, because I'm writing on a mural. And at the time, it didn't have a fucking thing written on it. And I just broke down that barrier, Dan. I wrote guilty on it, black spray paint, right next to O.J. Then the next day I rode my bike past it. I'm like, sober. I'm like, oh my God, dude, I wrote on that. I'm in trouble. Like, I'm going to be ousted from the graffiti community. I can't believe I fucking did that. Bruce, what the fuck did you do? But then a couple days later, some other things show, like a couple days later, that red paint show, somebody threw red paint at OJ, right?
Wow.
And now you can see the red paint that's sort of on him. Somebody threw red paint on him. Then somebody in black magic marker wrote "not" over my guilty. And you remember at the time when this was going on, there was a big division in the community. Unfortunately, it went along black and white lines. Is pro OJ, anti OJ, right? A lot of the black community rallied around OJ, and there was a lot of like pro and con, OJ stuff. So then that mural started to like take on a life of its own, where other people were writing stuff on OJ and the red paint and the not guilty, and they crossed out his eyes and do all kind of shit. And I had forgotten all about this until recently in this story that O.J. Simpson's dead. So of course in the social media they're running stories on O.J. Simpson, because now a lot of people have forgotten about it. Dan, that photo in the middle is what the mural looks like right now.
Oh, wow.
And if you look at it and look at it closely, you can clearly still see guilty.
Yeah.
Like they tried to buff it out, but it's still there.
Why would they do that?
Why would they do what?
Why would they do that? Why would they I don't know, man.
Buff it out?
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure whoever is in charge of the Potrero Hill mural, if there is anyone, just doesn't it looks bad. Guilty. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so this mural. Go ahead.
I don't know. Historically, there's not much argument at this point.
Well, he was found not guilty.
Can I tell you a story? Can I tell you a story about OJ?
Yeah.
When that happened, I'm talking about initially when the white Bronco.
Oh yeah, it was great.
They're after him. When that happened, I was, I believe, a sophomore in college, maybe something like that.
That one had 93. Did this happen? 94?
In there, 93, 94.
Yeah. I
was, believe, a sophomore, junior in college. I saw what happened, and even though he was eventually found not guilty, most of people kind of assumed he did it.
Of course,
right? And I,
Dan, be careful.
On the back of my Jeep in college, I wrote in shoe polish, "I believe in OJ," because I didn't think he was guilty. I was pro OJ.
You were a pro OJ guy.
Because it was, first of all, it was LA. The Rodney King thing had just happened, and
so you thought there might have been a fucking racial element to it that was.
I don't know. I mean, I just was trained as a kid.
Well, you know what? You're also just causing problems.
I was trained as a kid to respect football players, I guess, and I just thought. I thought he was innocent.
Yeah.
So anyway, I was wrong. But
that's funny. Yeah. So he died. The cancer finally took him in the news. Whatever. It's sad that he just died. Whatever. But people are happy that he's dead and stuff. And so I don't have it, but there's a video they just made of it. One of my old graffiti writer friends sent me a video. They just did a piece right next to the mural, and there's a story about this mural. The mural's fallen into disrepair. The mural, the city can't, of course, again, funding, right? Like the city can't decide what to do about this mural. Are they going to paint over it? Are they going to fix it? Whatever.
Meanwhile, what's the average income on Potrero Hill right now?
What's the average what?
Income on Potrero Hill.
Potrero Hill is such a bougie neighborhood. It's so expensive to live. Like, it's wildly expensive, right? And like, it's like Nob Hill at this point. The views are spectacular from Potrero Hill, like postcard views. But anyway, I was kind of shocked as far as like, a street artist, and, they showed pictures of what the mural looks like right now. The fact that it looks, I mean, it's fallen into disrepair, but it's not completely blasted over in graffiti. Like I wrote guilty on it, but like no one followed suit and wrote, like, it's pretty much left untarnished. It's whitewashed and stuff like this. Like, it's sort of like it's bleached by the sun, but it still remains. But you could still see my guilty on there clear as day. Like, no one actually put paint over it. They just tried to scrub it off. And Dan, this is 29 years ago. So I wrote this in 1995. And so right now you can still see guilty on that. And for graffiti artists, we use these terms called, how long has that tag been running? If you catch a tag and you write your name on something and it lasts a couple of years, you would say, oh, that tag's been running for 3 years. This tag's been running for 29 years in public, not in a subway tunnel, in public. And no one, in a high visibility area, no one's painted over it. No one's completely written over it. You can still read it. And in the world of graffiti, I was stunned. I'm like, that's still there. And in the news report that they just said, they had a guy talking in front of it. This is a recent video piece that went out. He's like, here we have the famous OJ mural. And you can see here that a while ago, it's been taken somebody wrote guilty on it. You can still see right here. I'm like, that's me.
That's awesome. That really
some of my greatest work. And it's so funny. Like, I put it on Facebook, right? And I'm like, oh my God, people are going to like hate me for that or whatever. And I'm sure some people in my life are like, that's kind of uncool, dude. You shouldn't have done that. But overwhelmingly, people are like, oh, you're a lot cooler than I thought. Like, I like that you wrote guilty on a mural. And I didn't get any heat from any graffiti artists, by the way, as well. They're like, oh, we're guilty,
Yeah, that was a weird time. I mean,
so by the way, when that OJ trial, okay, so another side story. Remember the trial that was on with Judge Ito and the fucking blood splatter and all? So 1995 was the year that trial was going on, and it was televised. Every day of it was televised. Right at the same time, my band Grotus got signed by a major label, London Polygram, and they gave me a good old bag of cash that they said at the time, here's this money, Bruce, here's your money. You should be smart with it and buy some drums and whatever. I'm like, nope, I'm going to go buy a huge bag of weed. And so I went with this big bag of cash that the record company gave me. I bought a huge bag of weed, but I also was smart enough, paid for my rent in advance for 1 year. Okay. And so then I spent this is to this day, probably still the best year of my life. I spent a year smoking this huge bag of weed that was the size of a pillowcase in my apartment in San Francisco that was paid for while my other roommates went to work. I would spend every minute of every day on the couch smoking weed, watching the OJ trial. Every hour of every day. And I was fascinated with it. And I just love, just like to this day, you can clue me on blood splatter fucking patterns. I know about it, And
I was in college. That says it all.
and it was just wild to watch every bit of that. And I know that I'm bummed that when Trump goes to the court this Monday, he's got to be there, that it's not televised. I'm so upset. I wish that shit was televised. I would, because I'd be a problem. I'd watch every fucking minute.
You're going to get mad at me, but I'm going to tell you again, this shit's only going to help him. You won't listen to me. You're just delusional.
Who, I'm delusional?
Delusional about this topic. I'm voting RFK. I'm not a fan of either.
Wow.
But people, it's the amazing thing about that guy is he's such a dope, yet the people who hate him the most cannot figure out the basic tenets of how to make him go away. And they can't figure it out. And so that's why he's going to win again. And it's like, I'm just going to sit back and laugh. But anyway, that's a topic for another day. But that's pretty awesome about I got to go. Next time in San Francisco, I got to get a picture. I really do.
I think probably they're going to wind up painting it over because now that there's
about it. They did paint it over, and yet somehow
the whole mural. The whole mural is going down.
Yeah. It's just the amazing thing again. Like you're talking about ridiculous amounts of money there. So like you would think
You would think the Potrero Hill, like it's ungodly amounts of money to live there now.
Yeah,
and
like
it
we're not talking.
It used to be kind of a shitty neighborhood, you know.
Yeah, like yeah. Now,
Now,
San Francisco, like so many cities, has become a dystopia because you can't live there unless you're a millionaire.
yeah,
And
it's a theme park.
If you're not a millionaire, you're either destined. You're either like living in a fucking shoebox or you're homeless. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's disturbing. And I love some of those cities. I love San Francisco. I used to go all the time.
So I like to you ever fuck around with like Google Earth and Google Street View, which is great. I just love Google Street View, like because it had me thinking about, and I thought about the story about the Potrero Hill mural, and I thought about the story about like where I had sex with that chick with the guinea pigs. Then I start to think like, I kind of have in my head like where it was at. Like I've got a good sort of visual memory. I'm like, oh, it's over by Market Street. And so for the fun of it, I'll get on Google Street View and I'll just sort of move quick, like slowly along the street, and you could look left and right, see what it looks like right now. And I did that, and I did that to this place that I used to work in screen print by, in the middle of San Francisco. And I remember back in the days, the screen print there, and it was in an alley where these homeless dudes used to hang out and shit on the street like constantly. And I was like, it's one of the things that drove me out of the city because I had to clean up human shit every single day before work, like clean the shit off of the front of the.
This was 25 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm like, oh, I'm sure it's gentrified by now. I went back to Google Earth. And they caught a dude lying on the street, just like, there's literally piles of shit, like, and it's sad, human tragedy, whatever. But I'm like, looks like I made the right decision and got out of that city.
What's going on in our cities across the country is just crazy. I mean,
yeah.
It's going to hit a point where, like, I don't care what your politics are, you're going to say, okay, we got to do something. I mean, it's just.
I don't know what's to be done.
I mean, you can't have this many people living like that. You just can't have that. Like that's moral. I mean, it's just not. I
don't know. Did we cover all the topics? I know it was a long show.
Yeah, no, we're done. That's it.
Are you sure? Like you had 3 things you wanted to talk about.
No, I had 2 things. That was it. We got the bagel shop. Let's
recap the stories that we told to make sure. Oh, nice. That's disparaging. Very low.
We got the Agile, of course. The Agile. Don't forget the Agile.
Yeah, the Agile. I mean, I don't know if most people can sort of wrap their heads around that, but it is. We did talk about how, like, sort of everybody that works in a business in a company is aware of these bullshit things and it's the meetings that you have to go to, right? Oh. The fucking meetings and like nothing. No one even cares, and it's just kind of like that whole way of working and living has got to be fucking collapsing soon because who cares? I mean, look, say what you want about what's going on right now, but I do think we are in the beginning of sort of a new kind of awakening about how we live our lives in general.
That's true. That is true.
Don't you think? Like, I think everybody has stood back and seen the forest for the trees, to use an expression, and just really go, really? Because like pre-COVID, we would all just do this and not question it. And say what you want, for whatever reason, it sort of pulled the plug out of the computer and plug it back in again. And now we're all just like, okay, what do I really want to do? And by the way, Dan, congratulations to you for making the decision, which is a scary motherfucking decision, to say, I don't want to go for the steady paycheck anymore. I'm going to go in business on my own and jump out into the void and believe in myself. And that's what I'm going to do. Ultimately, yes, scarier financial move because the future is uncertain. But I know when you go to bed at night that you feel good and you don't feel sick to your stomach anymore.
When I have my last day at this gig, I'll be very happy.
You tell them to fuck off.
Yes, that will happen. It's almost happened already several times.
Dan, I think there should be a new weekly. So the new weekly segment for me is going to be like Bruce's tour stories, where I talk about some horrible experience I had, whatever, or some horrible experience some woman had with me. I think there needs to be a weekly Dan goes to the bagel store, like a bagel store, like, because I know at least once a week you go out with the people and stand in line at a food place. And there's some sort of bad thing that happens because
always, every day.
So maybe think of a good title for that, because that's a weekly feature. That is a weekly feature where you get annoyed at the way people handle themselves in line, ordering food, something like that. So think about that. That's going to be a good weekly topic for you.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, I'm easy. It's easy to annoy me. You know how it is.
Yeah. Dan
All
hasn't
right,
done the
everybody.
work.
Thanks. It's an hour and a half in. Been a nice show. Hope everyone has a nice week.
Hope my voice wasn't too scratchy. I've been taking Ricolas over here.
All right, peace out.
Peace.
Mahalo.